So we're here with this 2008 Toyota Hilux. It's a famous vehicle in the Outback, and we're going to talk a little bit about suspensions. We're going to talk about why Australian suspensions are different from the typical suspension systems that we see in the United States. And I found that there's a couple key components to that, obviously. The fact that they're a system and not just a lift kit. That the goal is to not only be able to take multiple different loads, but to improve ride and handling and to keep the vehicle safe on these high-speed roads. So tell me a little bit about what makes your suspension and Australian suspension systems in particular different.
Now we have very unique and demanding conditions here. I mean, we have vast distances. Over the next few days we're going to be driving over hundreds and hundreds of kilometres of corrugations, which is hugely demanding on vehicles. Load is a big issue for us. Obviously we tend to carry fairly heavy loads in the vehicles. Carrying adequate fuel, water, spares, supplies, all that sort of stuff. And of course we tend to modify the vehicle. By necessity we're fitting things like bull bars, rear bumpers, roof rack, and all of this is putting a huge amount of demands on the suspension. And quite frankly, it's impossible for a vehicle manufacturer to develop a suspension system to suit everyone. So here in Australia, we basically rely on aftermarket companies to meet our suspension needs. And what we're looking for is a suspension system that is really very finely tuned to the vehicle.
And I've really noticed that when I drive the vehicle on these roads, there's a lot of stability. I've noticed that the shock tuning is particularly set up for corrugations. It's set up well to handle the load of the vehicle. So all of these trucks obviously are heavily loaded because we're spending multiple days in the Outback. We've got lots of fuel on board. Some of these trucks have an additional 200 liters on board. So we're talking about a huge amount of weight. So what I've noticed as a difference is in North America, we're seeing a lot of kits that come out with a specific number of inches that the consumer is looking for. And I believe it's important for the consumer to consider that one size fits all is really impossible with the vehicle. Once you start loading on roof tents and racks and all these other additional components, a bull bar can make a difference in several steps of spring. If you're just going with a bull bar, it's maybe one step up. If you're going with a bull bar, lights, and winch, then you're going 2 steps, maybe even 3 steps up in the spring rate that you guys provide. So I think it's important to know that look at your vehicle, take a base weight, weigh the vehicle as you start to put accessories on it, and then tune the suspension properly for the weight of the vehicle. And the end of it, if you do that right, you end up with a vehicle that handles well, has the additional clearance that you're looking for, and at the end of the day ends up being reliable as well. So do a little bit of research and look at what your vehicle, how it's set up, the kind of loads that you have in the vehicle, and get that suspension properly tuned for what you're going to do in the Outback.